It really came down to planning out content for each stage of the process. I think that for most people, it starts out with just planning it out and figuring out where those big points are, where people like decisions are going to be hinged, and starting there and then working back and trying to create content that's going to be helpful for people at those stages, and then working on bringing people in as well. So it really started out with just asking our sales team from the top level, what questions do you get asked all the time? Like, what issues do people bring to you? What questions do you have to answer? And you have to spend time writing the same paragraph over and over again to the point where you've got it on a copy paste somewhere. And once we had that figured out, and we figured, hey, like, that's the best way to help for us to help as like myself and our videographer Evan as content creators, is like we can make those pieces after discussing it with the sales team, and then they just have something there that is a ready explanation that's going to help the customer understand everything about what they're asking and help them move along in the process wherever they're at.
Right, right. Yeah, it's a win-win because it helps your sales team. It shortens the conversations they have, and it also, most importantly, helps the customers because they get what they want faster, it answers their questions faster, it builds trust faster. It's a win-win. That's really cool.
Zach, for you as the person who actually like uses the content in a conversation, do you remember the first article you used? Or I guess let me be more specific. The first article you used that came out of a revenue team meeting and the impact it had on the conversation that you had with the person who you were sending it to.
I actually do remember the very first article I sent for assignment selling, and the customer and, the discussion around it. So we had talked about, we were talking about discovery calls and, not just letting the discovery call be a calendar invite, and that's how deep it was, right? And then you just hop on this call with very little, bilateral awareness between the customer and us, right? And information sharing leading up to that. So we have this piece of content that we had developed called the, 10 questions to know that Strouse is going to ask you during your discovery call, to kind of give them a list of like, hey, like, here's the things we're going to talk about and what's going to be essential for us to get an accurate idea of what you're trying to do or change and how we can help, get you there as long as we have this information. So being that I was newer, I didn't have as much, industry or like niche experience to like rely on. So I was thinking like a buyer as much as I could, because I would be like, oh, I don't know the answer to this. So do we have any content that's going to help, tell this story and, paint the path of this journey for them? And I remember sending a new lead that article very early in the sales process. And I was like, hey, like, thanks for reaching out. This sounds like something we would love to talk to you guys about. I'm going to send you this article with 10 questions about, some things that are going to be really important for us to discuss in the discovery call. So if you have some time to collect your thoughts and bring that with you, that's going to make sure we're going to have a really impactful call that's going to help us get you a solution in a way that's, quick, expedient to your needs and your timeline. And the response to that was, I believe the same day I got a Word document from them a day before the call with those 10 questions answered in a sheet, basically telling us every single detail, whether it was a technical spec, whether it was a question about where they were in the process, what was the compelling reason for them, reaching out to us. And that was a huge unlock point, because that was very early, and I don't think everyone gets that lucky, because assignment selling works. It might not work that well on your very first try, right, for every single person, right, but it did for me, and that was the proof is in the pudding. So I was like, oh, now we have all this information. Our engineers are like, wow, this is awesome. Like, yes, we can help them. So here's what we're going to prepare and propose on the meeting. And we went from a new company reaching out to having a pretty aligned idea of what they were trying to do and a solution that we could offer within like 10 days, which for us was like much quicker than our average sales cycle. So from that point on, I was like, all right, this is the way. Like I can see the results. I can see the why. Like, yeah, I'm in.